God created government, but people created politics.
Doors open for me across the globe, not because it's Eric Adams, a kid from Brownsville that's been dyslexic, arrested, rejected, and now elected. It's because I'm the mayor.
But wait, just to be clear, you said 30 years ago, you wrote the date when you became mayor, and you actually manifested that and became mayor on that date.
When the words are on the page, it's just text. It's when it leaves the page and enters a human heart and mind that it brings transformation. The Exodus story was just text on a page until it left that page and entered the hearts of black people in slavery in America and began to give them hope for change.
Hey, wait. I know you want to watch this next video, but listen, if you are an entrepreneur, business coach, business consultant, or a small business owner who has a story and wants to learn how to create multiple streams of income from your story, I need you to text me right now, my book, to 646-687-4152. That is my personal number. I have been an author for over 12 years. I've written 10 books. 4 of them have been bestsellers, and I've sold over 100,000 books. But I've also helped a lot of my clients take their expertise and put it into a story, then create multiple streams of income from that. So I want to help you do the same thing. So text my book to 646-687-4152. All right, let's go back to the video. All right, so welcome. This is historic. This is a great time, great opportunity. And so I want to first invite you guys and welcome to a live taping of Inside the Vault with Ash Cash, the greatest money mindset show on the planet. Right? Round of applause. And so this is historic because for me as a native New Yorker, Harlemite, from the New York City Housing Authority, St. Nicholas Projects, 129th Street, 8th Avenue, being somebody who grew up, in New York City, to see our city being run by somebody who looks like me is an honor and a pleasure. And so I want to give you the right intro. And so after facing a life-changing act of injustice at the age of 15, being beaten in the basement of a precinct, he turned his pain into purpose and decided to change the police department from within. He joined the New York City Police Department and became one of the most outspoken officers, calling out racism and bias in the department and pushing for major reform. Mayor Eric Adams has served the people of New York City as an NYPD officer, state senator, Brooklyn Borough president, and now the 110th mayor of New York City, a native New Yorker born in Brownsville, Brooklyn, and raised in South Jamaica, Queens. He gave his voice to working families in all 5 boroughs and is leading the fight to bring back New York City's economy, reduce inequality, and improve public safety in the city of New York. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Mayor Eric Adams. On your feet.
There's one rule I live by. You do not stand for me, I stand for you. I'm here to serve you. Yes. And it's one thing to have someone to look like you, but you want someone to be like you. And that's what this moment is. And I never forget, in one of the inspirational books that I read, a person said that every year he attends the conference. He was one of the top executives to talk about a particular topic, and they would pick him up at the airport as he flew first class. Someone meet him at the airport and drive him to his suite at one of the prestigious hotels. He would get there at the speaking arrangement and people would meet him. They would give him this nice little mug to drink his coffee at, and they would send him in the VIP area, and he'll do his speech and they'll take him back. And then he said a few years later, after he left the position, he attended the same conference. When he got to the airport, no car was there. He had to catch a yellow cab. He got his hotel, it was a Motel 6. When he went to the location to speak, they gave him a plastic cup. And by the time he finished, they said, you got to get back to the airport on your own. And he said the realization is that that mug cup, that first class hotel, that first class airplane ride was not attached to him, it was attached to the position. So trust me when I tell you that doors open for me across the globe, not because it's Eric Adams, a kid from Brownsville that's been dyslexic, arrested, rejected, and now elected. It's because I'm the mayor. And once I'm no longer mayor, I'm back to drinking out of a plastic cup. And all I'm gonna have is what I had when I got here, and that is you. This is all I have. And that's why when you see me move throughout the city, I'm moving throughout the city, not only enjoying what I'm doing right now, but I have my vision, and when you're gone and you no longer get the mug, you better have done enough that the people who were there with you when you were climbing are going to be there with you when you are done. So everything I do is based on being able to walk in this room and you showing me love because you're saying, Eric, you served well, you stood up through the storm, you never buckled, you never shuckled, you never danced, you showed the preeminence of what it is to be a black man in the most important city on the globe. Let's never forget that, and I will never forget that.
Yes. And I would be remiss to not introduce Pastor A.R. Bernard, one of the top spiritual leaders on the planet, somebody who has done a lot for our community, not only spiritually, but economically as well. So welcome, Pastor.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be with you, especially sitting here to our illustrious mayor of New York City. I'm not running for office, so I'll be brief. But this is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. It's not what you do in life, but what you inspire others to do that makes you great in life. So the greatness of this organization, to inspire people to come out and collectively represent change and forward movement, this is the greatest blessing that we could have. So thank you for coming out.
Absolutely. May, I want to start with you because, again, as somebody who grew up in the housing projects, I am no stranger to police harassment, if you will. And for you, growing up 15 years old, beaten in the basement of a police department, most of us, and I'll just say for me and my peers, we were angry at the cops. And for you didn't, you took that anger, you said you want to change that from within. Like, what was your thought process of saying, you know what, instead of being a victim, I'm going to change from within?
And it's really, I have to take my hat off to Mom. Everyone knows how I feel about my mother who transitioned about 1.5 years ago. And, she had 6 kids. She loved them all, but she just adored me. I was her favorite. And, when I got arrested and came home that next day after spending the night in Spofford, and Mommy sat me down in a little kitchen, and she said, baby, if you're fortunate enough to live long enough, you're going to be misfortunate to experience pain. You have to turn pain into purpose. And a dark moment is not a burial, it's a planting. And when I do a reflection over my life, I can see there was a lot of dark moments. But when I do an analysis of it, I realize that those dark moments are learning moments, they're teaching moments. And you're going through it for a reason. And so whomever is going through something right now, just be still and say, what am I supposed to learn right now? Because that's what the moment is. The moment is, I'm here in this dark place, but the universe is teaching me a lesson that if I'm so busy trying to get out of it, instead of saying, let me sit here and reflect on it, you will find that it is that cocoon that you're in that's allowing you to really mushroom, mushroom into that next level. Like the caterpillar that looked up at a butterfly and said, you'll never get me in one of those, realizing that one day you're going to be that butterfly. There's a whole lot of butterflies that believe they're only going to crawl on the ground. And that's not true. You're going to be flying soon. So your ass better get ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Pastor Bernard, so you have been very instrumental in New York City and globally from a spiritual perspective, but as well as economically, which a lot of us, I guess, get flack if you try to mix the two together. Can you talk a little bit about why it's important for you not only to lead from a spiritual perspective, but from an economic perspective as well?
Well, let me credit our mayor. We were at Teachers College this past week doing a conference. I was part of the panel, and it was on mental health, and the mayor was there. And let me just commend the mayor for doubling down on his identity with his faith.
That's right.
Because when we understand that a book with text left the page, entered this man's heart and mind, and transformed him as an individual, then we'll understand what's driving him and why he refuses to create this dichotomy, this separation between faith and culture. It works together.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that. And speaking of which, Mayor, I know that you had a press release or a press conference, and you credited God for where you are, who you are, and you've gotten a little bit of flack for that. Can you talk about your relationship with God?
Well, first of all, we didn't get flack. The numerical minority that sits at home in their pajamas and go on Twitter and want to attack everything, they're just organized and they're loud. The overwhelming number of people that this is a God-acknowledged country. In God we trust is on our dollar bill. Every president that has ever been elected, except for 3, placed their hands on a religious text. You could not become a citizen of this country at one time without saying, so help me God. When I swore in on 42nd Street, I said, so help me God. When you swear into Congress, you say, so help me God. So if people want to continue to live in this pretending universe that God is not significant and our spirituality is not important, they can do that. I'm not. I know how broken I was as a young man and how angry I was as a young man. And there's no way you're going to take this perfectly imperfect human being. God said, I'm going to take the most broken person possible, and I'm going to show how wonderful I am. I mean, sometimes I just think people don't understand what it is to be the mayor of the city of New York. He could have made me the mayor of some small town or village somewhere. Yeah. He says, no, I'm going to take the most prestigious mayoralty on the globe, and I'm going to take the most broken person I know and allow him to show how I'm going to bring him and bless him. So if you're sitting in Rikers Island right now, you can say that, wait a minute, my mayor was in jail. If you are dyslexic in school, can't learn, wait a minute, my mayor has a learning disability. If you're living in a homeless shelter, my mayor lived on the verge of homelessness. No matter what you're doing, I was the top number runner in Southeast Queens. Wow. And so now I learned from running those illegal numbers, I'm learning how to do the math to control an over $100 billion budget. You know what I'm saying? So if people are walking around saying, well, you're talking about God, wait a minute, y'all just heard me? Yeah. I've been talking about God for so long. Yeah. And so what Pastor has done and his ministry, see, like, everybody look at what you're doing now with CCC and the housing development and all of that. They don't know the storefront church. They don't know where you came from. See, people often know, okay, you the mayor, you the borough president, you the state senator, you were a captain. That's my glory. That's not my story. And so CCC and what you're seeing there, that's the glory and only the beginning of the glory. Y'all don't even realize what this brother's about to do, you know. But that's not his story. His story is back in that storefront church and telling those broken men to believe in themselves, to start rising up to the level that they deserve. And they grew to Linden Boulevard, and from Linden Boulevard, folks used to wait online to get down to hear the pearls of wisdom that Pastor was dropping, to move into the next location. So I just think we need to really understand our power. And not only did he understand his power, he gave others the understanding of their power. And God only knows what has grown out of your membership from there.
You know, let me add to the fact that I said, and thank you, Samir, but again, when the words are on the page, it's just text. It's when it leaves the page and enters a human heart and mind that it brings transformation. The Exodus story was just text on a page until it left that page and entered the hearts of black people in slavery in America and began to give them hope for change. And that change was realized in the abolition of slavery, and then in the face of Jim Crow and segregation, the civil rights movement emerged, and we are where we are today. And we continue to move forward. So faith has been an integral part of our experience. And let me just say this, because I'm working on a film, a documentary about the black presence in the Bible. So I was sitting with some white financiers and producers, and they said, well, you know, Reverend, your information has to be impeccable if you're going to take on such a challenge to talk about the black presence in the Bible. I said, my dear friend, the challenge is not finding the black presence in the Bible. It's finding the white presence in the Bible. And he looked at me like I was crazy, but this is the disinformation and the lack of understanding that Christianity was already present in Africa before the transatlantic slave trade. And Christians and Muslim slaves were brought to America. So if we don't revisit history, understand it, and understand that we are a spiritual people, and our spirituality has been the driving force to push back against marginalization, segregation, disenfranchisement, then we'll fail to understand the power that the mayor is talking about.
Well said. And you know, I like that. And you know, and when I take my hat off to the brothers and sisters from Earn Your Leisure. Yeah. And if they're here, they should stand up, you know.
Yeah, stand up, fellas.
Be acknowledged. You know, back in Brooklyn Borough President, when I was Brooklyn Borough President, we were doing financial literacy in the schools. It's unbelievable, something that can impact your life so much that there's no formal training on it. And what you've made financial literacy something that's attractive. Our people were starving to learn how to do the basics. No one taught us the importance of credit scores, how to save for a house, how to save for investing in the future. No one did that. And there's a company called Built that I'm connected with, where you can pay your rent through this credit card called Built, B-I-L-T, paying your rent. You're getting points. And at the same time, they're doing an analysis based on how much money you're paying in your rent, what house you can also purchase. Because we have to get to the place of home ownership. And then what we must do is both substantive and symbolic. People need to, we did this during a campaign where a group of brothers went in business attire and did a march towards the precinct. It was around about 200 of us. People need to see us, you know. I'm gonna tell you something, nothing is more impressive, intimidating, and energizing than seeing a bunch of men of color in business attire visibly present, you know, because they're not used to seeing us on all levels, you know. And we need to constantly find creative ways. 46th Street, that big red step, someone called me and said, we need to do a whole video a whole photo of just brothers standing there, powerful image of brothers coming together and uniting as one. People need to see that, because in absence of that visual, people don't think it could be actual.
And speaking on that, right? So one round of applause, round of applause. The Black Men's Brunch, 500 Men, was something that was your brainchild. Can you expound a little bit more about the power of unity when, unity, economics, when Black men get together?
No, so true. And I got to take it off to 500 Men Making a Difference. Syriac has really, realized, the whole brothers, all of them. So now, and it was, 6 of us, Syriac? 6 of us sat in my Senate office, and, as I was moving around the Senate, I was coming in contact with these brothers, and sisters have always had their stuff together, let's be clear. Yes, but I was sisters. Yeah. But I was coming in contact with these brothers that I was like, wow, these are some beautiful brothers. Man. They were doing some amazing things, coaching teams, volunteering, just doing some amazing things. And I said, we have to come together. And how do we come together, have this brunch, and patronize the Black business, bring in folks like yourself and Pastor, as you have been to a couple of them, talking to folks, and unite together. And this is how in this room, it came from these brothers from 500 Men Making a Difference. Now we need to bump it up to the next level. The next level, I believe, has 2 phases. Number one, I'm sure Syriac is going to go into it. We need to be connecting with each other weekly through a Zoom, some type of connection where we are hearing from each other, re-inspiring each other. It can't be every month or every 3 months. We need to be connecting, find out what jobs are available. I have a couple of thousand jobs that are available in some serious places in my administration that we need, positive brothers and sisters to be in. Then it has always been my vision. Like, look at all of these brothers that are in the room. Some of them know each other, some of them don't. We need a way to identify ourselves. And we're trying to figure this out. I don't care if it's a small little rice lapel pin. I don't care if it's a little a black dot. I need to be on the train and look over at you and see something that says, I'm ready to receive you. I'm part of this family of receiving you. If we're in the supermarket together and I'm walking down the aisle and I look over at your lapel and I see that little black dot, it is saying, I'm inviting you to talk to me, learn what I'm doing and how we can coalesce. Right now, the army is too scattered. And yes, we have the Boulets, we have the Masonic Order, we have the fraternities, but the tribe is scattered. You don't have to leave your tribe to be united in the entire tribe. And we have to do that in a real visible way, because other groups know each other. Absolutely. They can see each other. They know the way they dress. They know the way they're present. They know the different symbols. Those symbols were built so that they can understand that I am one of you. We need to figure out an identifiable way that is so discreet that soon as I see this brother and I know I can engage with you, he's welcoming for me to engage. And it can't be just those who are business people. It could be the person could be a messenger. The person could be a cleaner. The person could be a cook, a waiter. Doesn't matter. Because if you see that waiter, he has that dot on his uniform. You engage him and say, hey, brother, there's some other job opportunities that I have. There's some other training that I have. I want to take you to your next level. But if we don't identify ourselves, we're going to come in a room like this, scatter, and never really unify the army. The army must be unified now.
Yes. Because our mayor is speaking to you prophetically. And the prophetic is predictive to the future, but primarily analytical to the present. The prophet analyzes the social, political, moral, and spiritual conditions of the society and then speaks into it a word of wisdom. In 1965, there was a report called the Moynihan Report. and it profiled the black family in America. It was considered to be a pathology of illegitimate births, black men with low self-esteem, a social problem, black women who are the head of the household. And it was a call to national action. That was 60 years ago. Since then, we as a people have experienced unprecedented wealth, education, upward mobility. However, we still have 1.6 million black men of color, who are in the custodial care of the criminal justice system. We still have an ever-increasing economic gap in education as well in our society. We have more, and we've met, the mayor and some others have met about this. We have people of color in positions of power in our nation that we haven't had in the history of this nation. So obviously there is a window of opportunity and a season being presented to us, and the question is, what are we going to do with this opportunity as a people?
I know we hijacked your whole talk.
No. When you in the presence of greatness, you shut up and you let him speak.
Just think about what Pastor is saying. And I keep going back to New York. The AG is a person of color. The leader of the assembly is a person of color. The leader of the Senate is a person of color. The public advocate, person of color. The DA in Bronx, Manhattan, of Brooklyn, person of color. The mayor is a person of color. The leader of the city council is a person of color. The majority of committees in the Senate, in the assembly, in the city are headed, committee chairs are person of color. The leader of Congress, the first time in history, an African American to lead the Congress, Hakeem Jeffries, is a person of color. I mean, everything we've ever done, 4 of the top cities in America are now currently being run by people of color. Houston, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, a person of color. Atlanta is 7 of the 10 are headed by people of color. We are in control. So when I hear people running around saying, fight the power, Negro, you are the power. We are the power. The question is, what are we going to do with the power?
And let me just say, as we talk about faith and the intersection of faith and culture, God created government, but people created politics. And when we leave God out of our politics, with all of its political constructs, its policies, its legislations, its systems and structures, we lose our moral compass. And we move away from the original intent in the mind of God. So when we have someone in power, politics is power. Who has it? How'd they get it? How are they using it? Should they keep it? Who's benefiting most from it? That is a human construct that we have a responsibility to address and get individuals in there with a moral compass who are flawed. How many know you can have a moral compass and still be flawed? We are wounded, broken individuals, and it manifests in us in different ways, but we keep it under subjection so the beauty that's inside of us can come out and contribute to our forward growth and movement. So we've got to support each other, but most importantly, not miss the time of our visitation, especially when it comes to black men. There are more black women in graduating college than black men. That disparity is dangerous. Black women have experienced it, again, unprecedented wealth, education, upward mobility. So what does that mean? It means that black men have to level up so that black women don't have to level down.
And Pastor, you mentioned our 1.6 million of our brothers, in the system. Can we talk a little bit about the prison, the school to prison pipeline, when a lot of our youth maybe have learning disabilities and they're not really being serviced or focused on the right way, which leads them into that pipeline. Can you talk about that a little bit?
and it's real. It's real. When you do an analysis, Archbishop Desmond Tutu is a quote he stated that I live by. We spend a lifetime pulling people out of the river. No one goes upstream and prevent them from falling in the first place. We have a downstream mindset because there's so much paper that's being made by pulling people out of the river. You're pulling black and brown people out of the river, but look at who's making the paper for pulling them out of the river. There's no incentive to stop the process that places people in downstream. Nothing personifies that more than prison. If you do an analysis of Rikers Island, of 40 to 50% of the people on Rikers Island are dyslexic. Dyslexic. Wow. 80% don't have a high school diploma or an equivalency diploma. 48% have a mental health issue. 18% have a severe mental health issue. When you look at, all you got to do is look at downstream and say, what policies must I put in place upstream so I can prevent the downstream process? That's why we have dyslexia screening in all of our schools. We're going to Rikers to test all of our brothers and sisters who are there to see if they're dyslexic so we can give them the care while they're there. We have to, you hear this conversation about close Rikers, close Rikers. How about closing the pipeline that feeds Rikers? That should be our focus as we close down the actual building. And so that's why you need to understand, well, why are they trying to hit Eric every day? Because I'm messing with people's paper. The policies that I'm putting in place, people eat off of the dysfunctionality of black and brown people. When I start talking about, well, we're no longer going to be feeding this stuff, people say, wait a minute, we got to take this cat out, And then they put this out there so loudly, then all of a sudden you even have your own folks looking and saying, well, what are you doing to us? Man, what's wrong with you, Negro? I'm trying to fix this problem, I'm trying to fix this problem. So think about this for a moment. Those who have been around me for years, like I've been in this game for 35 years. When I ran for office, people who were never in the game, never did anything, all of a sudden rewrote my history. I mean, you had cats walking around, Eric is trying to lock up every black person that they know. It's like, wait a minute, do y'all remember 100 blacks in law enforcement? Do you remember me testifying in federal court? Do you remember having my car windows shot out? Like, where have y'all been? We have to stop being so fickle that just because someone tweets something or Facebook or Instagram something, that is going to wash away the history of those of us who have been soldiers for years. We fought for me to be mayor. And now that we got here, we're going to try to destroy me being mayor. Come on, stop.
Right. Pastor, can you talk? You're doing some big things from the economic development, housing perspective. Can you talk a little bit about those things?
Yeah, we were blessed to have some foresight about land. So in 1998, we purchased 10.5 acres of land in 2 parcels. We paid $6 million for it then. It is worth a lot more now.
Give us some numbers. Give us some numbers.
It's worth a lot more now. But it's about what's in your hand,
Right.
and what you can do with what's in your hand.
Right.
And we decided that we had to come up with something comprehensive. You've got to be able, development is about envisioning the possible futures that are in front of you. And if you can't see that, if you can't envision a different future, then you can't develop.
Right.
So it begins with the power and ability of envisioning a different future for East New York, for our community, for our people. But we didn't want to follow the last 60 years of how we've responded to the needs of our people by creating housing that's simply warehousing our people, one income band, which means that present at the inception of this project are the seeds of its own destruction. So we end up with the social problems that come as a result of putting people into a situation where there's no room for upward mobility. So we want to change the narrative in our community that the way up is not out. The way up is to stay in, grow, develop, bring your intellectual contributions to the society, your economic contributions, and make a difference. So we created a philosophy first for housing, and that is environment, people, programs, and sustainability. And we want to make sure that we could do something that would allow for upward mobility. So we're having 2,000 units of affordable housing, and we're talking from 30% AMI to 100% AMI, which allows for working class and middle class, especially millennials who graduated college. They're making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year, but they still can't afford the rents in our city. So we have to have some type of programming to keep them from leaving the city and keeping their intellectual capital, their creativity in place. So we have 2,000 units. We also added 200 units of home ownership so that we can own our own property and have a foundation, because that's usually the biggest asset that we have in our community. So we're talking about retail, commercial, a performing arts center, and something very important to me, which is 24-hour child care. Because we have sisters who are taking jobs at night to get a 15% differential higher salary and supervisory position, but they don't have any babysitting for their children. And some of them are leaving them at home and putting these children in jeopardy just to try to change the quality of life. So we want to do that. And another thing that's important to me is a trade school. So we're going to have HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and carpentry, so we can train our young black men, but also tie it to the unions who control the job sites. Because if you can't get in, all right, it doesn't matter what degree you hold. So we want it to be holistic. We want to understand that it's got to be progressive, it's going to take time, but we want to create a model for change, sustainable change. And of course, we are grateful to the city of New York and having the mayor where he is, because this started when he was borough president. That's right. And to be mayor now and continue to understand and appreciate this project and projects like it is critical.
Round of applause, round of applause.
And it's a $1.2 billion project.
Hey, there we go. That's some
And wait. And we are a 50% partner. We didn't sell out.
All right, yeah. And so, Mayor, word on the street is, before you became mayor, you had a book that you wrote about what you would do if you became mayor. Now that you are mayor, is that book still valid? Has anything changed?
No, what I did 28 years ago, my brother Mark Stewart here is the deputy commissioner for community affairs. Sam Calhoun, Sally, all of these folks. People have, listen, 30 years ago. 30 years ago, I said January 1st, 2022, I was going to be the mayor of the city of New York.
Wow.
And every
Wait, hold on, I'm sorry, not to cut you off. I never cut off a mayor, right? But wait, just to be clear, you said 30 years ago, you wrote the date when you became mayor, and you actually manifested that and became mayor on that date.
Yes.
Wow.
And those who were around me, Ingrid Martin and others, I would constantly, no matter where I would travel to, when I was elected state senator, at my swearing in, I said, when I become mayor, I'm gonna do 4 terms here in the Senate, I'm gonna do 2 terms in Borough Hall, and then I'm gonna become the mayor of the city of New York. It took a while before people realized I was not on medication, that I was serious. But I'm a big believer in quantum physics. You put what your desire is out in the universe and you really lean into it. And the reason a lot of things do not materialize for people because they don't actualize it in their minds beforehand. And every day I've made an entry in my journal of what I'm going to do in this city to fix the things that we saw systemically. And so I'm really encouraging everyone, forget about the haters, be focused and disciplined on what your vision is and what you want, and move towards that every day. You need to be making an entry in your journal. What did I do to move towards the destiny? And the beauty is I told everybody, so people who have been around me through this journey say, listen, this brother was talking about this for 30 years. Wow. He was constantly saying, January 1st, 2022, I was going to be the mayor. And I felt this was, God gave this to me. So when I saw the obstacles, I would say, I don't care about that. God already told me what I'm doing on January 1st, 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to just get your inauguration tickets because I'm going to be there. You need to be there. You know?
Right.
But really lean into that.
Yes.
Lean into, like I'm sure you brothers from Earn Your Leisure, you had a vision. Now look at what you're doing right now.
And it was written down though, right? So just to be clear, right, in Troy's kitchen, Rashard wrote down on paper what Earn Your Leisure would be, and look at God.
And look at it. Look at it. And so, and look how God brings everything together.
Yeah.
Because now we're going to partner with you. And I wanted to do it last year, but I was just so tied up with putting the infrastructure together. Now we're going to partner with you to really allow this to manifest in the Department of Education.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure that you are able to take what you're doing and get in from, come up with a curriculum that's going to impact our elementary school students, that continues to middle school, that continues to high school, and continues on to college. So I really wanted to sit down with you and say, how do we get that curriculum that makes it attractive enough that young people can really attach, that they should not be wearing their fortune, they should be investing in their fortune.
Assets over liability.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me say something too that is important for a people who have been marginalized, disenfranchised, and you've grown up in that environment. The reality is, even though we've experienced unprecedented wealth, education, upward mobility, it doesn't remove the reality of how we've had to navigate life in America. And it's been different. We experience poverty different. We experience everything different because of that marginalization. But what comes out of that, which is it's bad and good. It's a double-edged sword. It is the desire for more recognition, more fame, more power, more money, more influence. And once we get more, it's not satisfied. We're still left empty. So then we want better. A better house, better car, better partner. And then when we get better, we're still not satisfied. We're left empty. And then we turn to distinction, something to distinguish us from everybody else so that we can be elevated. And what we discover when we get that distinction, it still doesn't satisfy. We're left empty. It's not until we discover something called purpose. And purpose begins to drive us, shape us, the way we think, the way we speak, the way we interact with reality and people around us. All of a sudden, you can pass by the more so you can have more. You can pass by the better because there's a better beyond that, because purpose is taking you to it. So what we see here is a man was convinced 30 years ago of a purpose that he would serve in the city of New York as mayor of New York City. I don't know where he's going from here, but
Wait, that's my next question. So hold on.
But we've got to be driven by purpose. That's what will sustain you when you are down and out and struggling. You won't judge your future by your circumstance. You will judge by that sense of purpose, that deep inside of you need to keep going.
Right. And these brothers, let me tell you something, the brothers and sisters in here, the mere fact they're here Saturday morning, they are hungry. They are hungry.
Round of applause for
Yeah,
yourself.
they're hungry. And they've been moving around. Some of them are professionals. Some of them are working for someone. Some of them are working for themselves. But inside us, there's something that we say there's so much better. And when you're hearing every day, all day, about what we are doing to each other, it breaks our heart. Those of us with that purpose, we know we're so much better. And so that's why we're all here in the Navy Yard, because we want to coalesce around each other. We want to be around that positive energy. You know, the love we have for each other is just unbelievable, that love. And to be able to have, an outlet of how we can come and express that love. And now let's use that love to help us drive the purpose that Pastor was talking about.
Absolutely. If you're wondering about purpose, it's simple. Aristotle said it. He said at the intersection where your gift, talents, and abilities meet a human need, that's where you'll discover your purpose. Identify your gifts. God's given every one of us gifts, talents, and abilities. Now use it to meet a human need, and you will find yourself in the stream of purpose. And guess what? You won't have to chase money because you don't have to pursue what you can attract by the person you become.
Absolutely. Abundance is your birthright. And so we have a lot of youth in the building today. Pastor Bernard, take us back to 18-year-old AR. If knowing what you know now, if you had some advice for 18-year-old AR Bernard, what would you be telling him?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I am who I am today because of all that I've gone through. So if I try to rewrite it, I may not be sitting here with you today. So I've simply embraced my past, and I have a positive evaluation of that past. And when I was 18 years old, growing up without a father, single parent mother who was working 3 jobs, latchkey kid, I was raising myself, all right? I was looking for purpose. I was looking for identity, for strength, for order. And at the time in the 60s, we chose between Dr. King and Malcolm. My group chose Malcolm. So that naturally led me to the Nation of Islam because in it I found order, I found discipline, I found identity. There were certain things that I did not embrace, but it was part of my journey. And that journey set the foundation for my conversion into Christianity. So it is allowing that journey to be understood, that it shaped you and fashioned you and brought you to who you are today. So I would not tell that young man anything different. I would tell him, keep going where you're going because there's some things you're going to discover and experience that's going to turn out very well.
Yes.
No, but
Same question to you, man.
No, I think Pastor really laid out in the same every dark moment.
Yes.
Just really created this person that's in front of you now, and a lot of that creation and evolution came from what one would have classified as a terrible moment in life, but it helped. So when I sit down, when I go to, I've been on Rikers more than any mayor in the history of this city, talking to the correction officers and inmates. Thanksgiving, I was on Rikers with a young lady who just gave birth to a child. I went to spend time with her. And so every moment that I've had, sitting down with gang leaders to find out, why are we having so much gun violence, of experiencing different cultures and ethnic groups. So you're going to make mistakes, but those mistakes, I think, shapes us and keeps us focused on our purpose. I would not be the mayor that I am and the style of mayor that I am if I wasn't dyslexic, if I wasn't arrested, if I didn't live on the verge of homelessness, if I didn't have some real problems. If I didn't have all of those issues, I would not be this bald-headed, earring-wearing, mayor that you're seeing in front of me. I would try to fit into a mold. And I'm not trying to fit into the mold. I'm trying to bring the Black experience into what it is to be a mayor. Be authentic, be true, be you. And at the same time, our success is unbelievable.
Yes.
People, you don't read that the bond ratings in the city was raised to a AA under my administration.
Oh, let's go.
You don't read that 56 million tourists came here, 65 million this year. We've handled 51,000 people that showed up in our city because the federal government didn't do what they were supposed to do. We were able to manage that onslaught. So you don't hear the success. I am the CEO of New York City.
Yes.
And I'm a successful CEO of the city of New York with over $100 billion budget.
Yes. Okay.
That's some real stuff.
Yes. All right. Round of applause for that, y'all. Round of applause. All right, before we wrap up, as Men of manifestation, right? We write it, we make it plain. A lot of similarities, products of single parent homes. I'm raised by my mother as well in the projects. When you think about the future, what does the next 10, 20 years, in God's will, what does that look like?
Well, first, even before I answer that, I just want to really acknowledge a real giant that's here. Her husband book really inspired me. Reginald Lewis's life here. Really, really good to see you. If anyone did not read that book, you need to read it. Reginald Lewis was the originator about economic development, and I think the book was "Why Does White Men Have All the Fun" or something like that.
Why do
White guys have all the fun. But I'm excited about the next 10 years. This is real opportunity. This room is a reflection of my excitement. I think this is a moment of coalescing. I think that if we come together and not allow the division, there's a scene in the movie Roots where they're all in the hull of the slave ship, and the brother told all the different tribes to know each other, learn from each other, learn each other the same language. I think this is a moment for us. But, Pastor said it right. What are we going to do with this moment? Yes. It's agitation, negotiation, and legislation. Those three combinations will guide us. People who became top C-suite executives, they got there because the agitators were on the ground during Black Lives Matter marches and forcing these corporations to start hiring and increasing the number of black folks in many of these jobs. So if you look down on those who were on the street agitating, you're not going to appreciate that's how you got where you are. Black folks were able to get elected to legislate because of the negotiation and the agitation. We can't stay divided anymore. We all have to get together. We need each other. And I think this is a moment for us to come together and use those three areas. I've been an agitator, I've been a negotiator, and I've been a legislator. And I know each one of those roles serves a purpose, but they've been disjointed. If we come together with a real blueprint and say, what's the goal? It can't be scatter and pray. What's the goal we want to accomplish? If we want X number of this, X number of that, we spend 20-something billion in procurements of goods and services in this city. We want a real goal. I brought on Michael Gardner. I don't know if Michael is here. Michael is my new person in charge of MWBEs. We need to get some of that paper. Those of you who are in the food services, we're going to spend billions of dollars to feed people who are in our housing care. You need to go after those contracts. You have warehouse spaces. You need spaces to hold people up. I want people to look at who has the contract for toilet tissue being sold to the city of New York, copy paper, cleaning supplies, shoelaces, laundry services. We need to go after those contracts that are there to get some of that 20-something billion of procurement for goods and services in the city. That is what our focus needs to be while I'm here, to make sure we make more millionaires of color to move forward.
Amen. Amen. Good preaching, man. For me, there's a wonderful passage in Proverbs that says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. That's his grandchildren. I've got 25 of them, and one on the way. A good man is simply a man who consistently subscribes to his higher self. So he's going to leave a good inheritance. Inheritance is your legacy. So I'm thinking about my legacy. What am I going to leave behind? And legacy is not just material. For me, it's first spiritual. In fact, for all of us, it's first spiritual. That transcendent part of who we are that drives everything else. So my spiritual legacy. Legacy is also intellectual, teaching how to think critically and to understand and move forward with that critical thinking. Legacy is motivational, understanding the power of the will and the proper use of that will and how it can result in upward mobility and forward movement for you as an individual and your community. Legacy is emotional, emotional health is what I also want to pass on. So it is all of those things long before we get to the material things that we leave. So I'm in a place where I'm thinking about legacy. What am I going to leave behind? And how can I now, and it's tied to 500 Men Making a Difference, mentoring. How can I take the accumulation of knowledge, experience, relationship, and pour it into the next generation? I'm doing that with pastors and leaders across the country and around the world, and that's where I am for the next 30 years.
Love it, love it. And you know, it's so important what Pastor said as we get ready to wrap. Hard times make strong people. Good times make weak people. And you know, there was this experiment in biology class that I'll never forget, and it has become part of my thought, that if you place a frog in hot water, it would jump out right away. But if you place a frog in cool water and turn up the temperature slightly, it would stay there until it burns itself to death. Wow. We're burning ourselves to death. Wow. When you look at what is happening, it's almost a Trojan horse effect. Our children they are addicted to social media. China plays a TikTok here in America that's not played in China. It's illegal to do so. Our children are waking up every day, stopping up at the local bodega, getting gummy bears and Skittles that's laced with everything from fentanyl to cannabis, and they sit in the classroom. And we know the destruction of early use of cannabis, what it does on a young child's brain. Suicides are up. At the age of 9, people are talking about committing suicides. We're seeing depression is up. We're seeing the violence among our young people because they're in pain, and we need real outlets of really ministering to them. We must refocus our attention on what's happening to our young soldiers. And all of us should be, if you don't have someone outside your immediate family that you are mentoring, that you are speaking with, and bringing them up, then we are really abandoned. We need to be in schools. My brother just came in, what he's doing around using dance in Harlem. He's getting ready to do something all over the city around dance. We have to get back and re-engage ourselves with young people. They are hurting, and I see that pain on their faces every day. We need to get back to nurturing them, because these good times that we had is producing weak people.
Yes. Round of applause, y'all. Round of applause. All right, so I would love to keep. I got a lot of questions, y'all, but respecting their time. Round of applause, Pastor A.R. Bernard, the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, and I am Ash Cash, the host of Inside the Vault, the greatest money mindset show on the planet, on the biggest network on the planet, EYL. We appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much.